What are your views on the decline of the British Stock Exchange over the last few years?
It's not only the British Stock Exchange that's been declining. Do you look at it and say, therefore, that it's a decline in the British stock market, or do you say it's the growth of the American stock market? So what people don't realise, if you look at global indices, if you look at the MSCI World Index, US companies now account for 70% of that global index. And when companies want to list, so if you and I have a business and we've built it up and it's got an estimated value of 1 billion when it's launched, where do you want to launch it? You will launch it in the stock market that is most likely to sell those shares for the value you want. And right now, everybody wants to be in America because of its vast capital depth. So you get even a football team like Manchester United is listed in the US, British team, and it's listed in a foreign market. We just have to get used to that and work out ways of making things a bit better. What doesn't make things better is when you charge stamp duty on transactions, which we do, and you make it difficult to transact business in the UK stock market through overly aggressive regulation or taxation. So we need to be a bit sensible about this, but we still do have London is still a very, very good financial centre, and whilst things are racing away in the States as they are at the moment, and there's so much money over there, it's inevitable that big companies will want to go and list there.
Economists are constantly warning of a sovereign debt crisis. How does this square with your assertion that the UK's debt levels are still healthy?
Well, the UK debt levels are healthy. I showed that in the seminar in terms of when you look at the whole picture on the UK balance sheet and when you look at historically relative to GDP. I didn't go into the fact that we're probably undercounting GDP, which is an out-of-date measure designed to work out how much the economy can manufacture when you need a war effort. That's why it was brought in the first place. So it is, and I just refer back to Keynes's great statement, what we can do, we can afford. And that's absolutely right. And I give an example of how things turn around very quickly. The Greek economy has greatly improved. The Spanish economy is one of the best in Europe at the moment, yet they were completely bombed out after the global financial crisis. Ireland has improved, another bombed out. Iceland was in a terrible mess, particularly because its banks are and it's got through it. So what is a bad? I don't think the debt level is not the issue. The issue is how productive are you being, and I think there's issues around that. But there should be no reason why our country can't generate improvements in GDP growth and productivity in the next decade.
Well, can investment recovery help to support our services and infrastructure to recover? Either roads, the rail, the NHS, and in the process might that create jobs? Yeah,
it does create jobs because there's a thing called a multiplier. So, and that multiplier says that for every pound we spend, how much generates additional GDP. Now, in the global financial crisis, the estimate was that the multiplier was significantly below 1. And around about 2013, the estimates came through suggesting that not only was it above 1, but it was massively above 1. Now, if the multiplier is above 1, what it means is, Leo, is the government spends money on infrastructure, new roads, new hospitals, whatever. It gives the economy more of a boost. They spend $1 billion and the GDP goes up by 1.5. Happy days, because that means your debt to GDP ratio is dropping even as you're borrowing and spending money. And I suspect that multiplier is a lot higher. And what you saw with the pandemic was that when governments were forced to start spending, when you had a bit of fiscal intervention, you've seen that in the States better than anywhere else, the economy starts to go again. We get those animal spirits back. We begin to want to do things. That's key to making the economy work.